How about a flying trip around Arizona to celebrate Arizona's 100th birthday coming up in February? Many people call this John Wayne country. This is coming to you from John Wayne's 26 Bar Ranch in Eagar, Arizona. On the helmet, bring the visor down. Adjust the chin strap. Bring down the canopy. And lock. Then check the instruments. Hit the starter switch. The APU unit roars into action. And we have engine start. Checking all of the instruments to make sure everything is working correctly. Then call the tower and tell them we're ready to taxi. Adjust the speed brakes. And we're ready to roll. Because we are approaching Arizona's 100th anniversary in becoming a state, the 48th state of the United States, we're going to take a little tour of Arizona by a Czechoslovakian Russian jet. And it'll only take us a few hours to fly the total of Arizona in what is called normally John Wayne country. Because of its excellent slow flight characteristics and a high top speed, it'll be just perfect for this trip. After clearance from the tower, we line up on the active runway. Add 100% power, and we're on the takeoff roll. And we have rotation. Gear coming up. Flaps coming up, and we're now off into the wild blue yonder. After a short flight, we're at Monument Valley.
Monument Valley. In the far reaches of northeastern Arizona, this corner of the Navajo Reservation has inspired explorers, writers, and Hollywood directors. With formations named The Emperor, Castle Rock, Mittens, Stagecoach, and The Big Chief, it is no wonder this roughly 100 square miles of land has inspired and delighted so many.
John Wayne made many films here in Monument Valley. He started out in 1939 with Stagecoach. Then, in 1947, they did part of The Angel and the Bad Man here, and then Fort Apache, and She Wore a Yellow Ribbon.
In 1880, Civil War General William Sherman compared Arizona to hell. All it needed was a little less heat and more water.
We turn west and we arrive at Lake Powell.
Today, the state has more than 100 lakes and one of the highest number of boats per capita of any state in America. Where Arizona's rivers have been harnessed for power and irrigation, vast reservoirs stretch for miles behind dams. Straddling the Arizona-Utah border, Lake Powell is the second largest man-made lake in North America. Here, you'll find major canyons and nearly 2,000 miles of coastline, more than the entire western coast of the United States. Rainbow Bridge, a natural wonder now accessible from Lake Powell. At 309 feet high, it's the world's largest natural bridge, tall enough to put the nation's Capitol building under it.
We fly further to the west, and then we arrive at the Grand Canyon.
The Grand Canyon, a chasm etched deep into the earth for the simple effect of water, gravity, and time. Writer Charles F. Loomis once said, "I have seen people rave over it, better people struck dumb with it, even strong men who cried over it. But I have never yet seen the man or woman that expected it." No other place in the world so clearly illustrates the passage of time. 25 layers of geologic history are revealed in these canyon walls. As the youngest rocks are at the top of the canyon and the oldest at the bottom, every step taken into the canyon represents 1,000,000 years of time.
Then, what the heck, we just did a good roll to the left. John Wayne did most of the Flying Tigers movie here near Flagstaff, Arizona.
Meteor Crater. Formed when a meteorite smashed into the Earth, Apollo astronauts trained here in preparation for missions to the moon.
Then we take a heading to the south towards Sedona, Arizona, where so many films were made in the good old days.
South from the San Francisco Peaks in Sedona lie some of the world's most photographed rocks. The red Supai sandstones were first shaped by the waters of Oak Creek, then by wind and rain.
The biggest part of John Wayne's film that he produced and directed called The Angel and the Bad Man was done here in Sedona. The Mogollon Rim. Now the word Mogollon is the name of the people that lived here hundreds of years ago and then vanished.
The Mogollon Rim marks the center of the state, separating desert from the mountains and mesas of the Colorado Plateau. Here and throughout the Colorado Plateau, ruins remind us of ancient cultures which once inhabited this area and then mysteriously disappeared.
Then we take up a heading to the east towards the White Mountains, where the home of John Wayne's old ranch, the 26 Bar Ranch, is at.
Arizona is blanketed with the largest stands of ponderosa pine in the country, much of it found here in eastern Arizona. Here, the forests are alive with antelope, deer, turkey, and elk. The rivers are filled with trout. The White Mountains are home to the Apache, who believe these mountains sacred. Snows provide winter recreation opportunities, and ultimately, water for Phoenix.
And just to the north, in the foothills, is John Wayne's 26 Bar Ranch. Now we take up a heading to the west. And this is called Salt River Canyon and goes toward Phoenix.
It has been called the Mini Grand Canyon. The Salt River Canyon winds its way from mountain forest to desert in a mere 100 miles.
Then we come to a series of lakes and dams that supply the Salt River Valley, where Phoenix is at, with their water.
Built in 1911, Roosevelt is the first of 4 dams creating a chain of lakes on the Salt River, resting place for melted snows from the White Mountains.
Take up a heading to south towards Phoenix, Arizona. Back when I was a boy in the 1930s, it was 65,000 people. Today, they say it is over 3 million.
A new city was to rise on the ruins of this former civilization. It was decided the city should be named Phoenix. Just as the mythical bird rose from its ashes, Phoenix has risen to become one of the fastest growing cities in America.
Now we head to the east toward the Superstition Mountains.
The Superstition Mountains, the mysterious range where hikers get lost and gold is found, or so the legend goes. The tale of a lost Dutchman is the story of a man who found gold but never revealed his source. Then, on his deathbed, he drew a map to his treasure. The area continues to draw the curious, and those certain they will find the Dutchman's gold. It lies here, somewhere, in the shadow of Weaver's Needle.
Now we take up a heading to the south toward Tucson, Arizona.
Midway between Phoenix and Tucson, Picacho Peak rises from the plain. Here, on April 15, 1862, a brief Civil War skirmish erupted, when a handful of Confederate lookouts from Tucson opened fire on advancing Union troops. It wasn't much of a fight. Both sides lost a few men, and the desert once again was silent. But history books record the event as Arizona's official Civil War battle. Wandering through the foothills of the Santa Catalina Mountains, it is easy to understand why the native people named the city Tucson. Roughly translated, it means water at the base of the mountain. Settled in 1775, Tucson is the oldest city in the state, originally a destination for Spanish explorers and missionaries traveling from Mexico.
There is a little movie town just outside of Tucson. It's called Old Tucson. John Wayne made many films there.
Today, Tucson's Spanish beginnings are very much alive in missions like San Javier, which is perched outside the city like a white dove on the desert. Only in the Sonoran Desert can you find the saguaro cactus. Sometimes growing to 50 feet, saguaro have thrived in this climate for over 9,000 years. At Saguaro National Monument, the oldest and tallest stands of saguaro in the world command the desert hillsides. The Tohono O'odham tribe believed an ancient god created the saguaro. The deity wiped a single bead of sweat from his body and planted it in the soil. A bountiful harvest followed for the tribe and all of the animals in the desert. In the vast desertscapes of Arizona, it feels like you can see forever. Today, Kitt Peak Observatory is testimony to Arizona's diamond-clear air. Scientists from around the world gather here to set their gaze light years away.
Now we take up a heading to the south towards the Mexican border.
Much of southern Arizona is basin and range country, plains and mountains called Sky Islands. Occasional creeks, prairie grasses, and wildflowers yield prime land for ranching, a way of life here for generations. At one time, a working cowboy could ride for days without crossing a single strand of barbed wire.
This is where John Wayne did the great film Red River. Even though it was supposed to be about Texas, it was filmed in southern Arizona. This also is the part of the country where John Wayne's other ranch, Duke Hill, is located. Bisbee, Arizona, and this is the Lavender Pit Mine. At one time was the largest producer of copper in the United States.
Gold, silver, and copper were once king in small towns like Bisbee, where billions of tons of copper were produced.
The Chiricahua Mountains. This is where the great Apache war chief Cochise and his renegade Geronimo had their stronghold. "27 million years ago, one of the largest volcanic eruptions on the planet occurred right here, the Turkey Creek Caldera in the Chiricahuas. In one furious blast,
100 cubic miles of magma were sent skyward with a force 1,000 times that of Mount St. Helens in 1980. The Chiricahuas were born of fire and chiseled by wind and ice to form this spectacular range in southeastern Arizona.
In the northern part of this mountain range is where the famed Apache Pass was at, that the settlers had to go through when they were going west.
Arizona. It's been called the Wonderland of the Southwest. With its fathomless canyons, its snow-covered mountains, its vast deserts and blooming oases, it is nothing and everything in one view, in one place. Arizona.
Take up a heading to the north, back toward Springerville and Eager and the 26 Bar Ranch. Well, that's our tour of Arizona and what is called John Wayne country. We have the airport in sight. We line up on the runway, lower the gear and the flaps, check our landing speed, and we're ready for landing near the 26 Bar Ranch in Eager, Springerville, Arizona. Following the Follow Me vehicle, we go to the parking area. And we have wheel stop. Well, that's about it for this flight. We'll be back again for another flight. So, until then, off we go into the wild blue yonder. Duke said, drop on by the ranch. We'll have a bowl of chili and some barbecue. This was brought to you from John Wayne's 26 Bar Ranch in Eagar, Arizona.